Welcome back to another episode of See It Like Strev. This is episode 4. We're talking about week 5 of the CFL. Can't believe we've been doing this for a month, but I just have to say, first off, how much I appreciate everyone's support on this journey on YouTube content. Been getting so much positive feedback. I appreciate you all for consistently tuning in, giving me your feedback, whether positive or negative. All right, let's get into this week. A lot of offensive fireworks again. Thus has been the theme throughout this entire CFL season. Had some tight ball games, had a game-winning kick. We got our first look at a couple backup quarterbacks this week. And before we get into it, just want to talk about that a little bit because we all know this is a 21-week regular season. It's a long season. You're playing 18 games. And this has been a theme throughout this year is how high level the quarterback play has been. But in every single season, it seems like almost every single team, even the teams that make a deep run, need to rely on their backup at some point. So you got to have a guy who can go in there and win games. I've been in that position. I'm very familiar with it, but it's so important in this league to have depth at the quarterback position, and we got to see our first look at a couple guys this year. So let's get into this week's games because we had some great ones, starting off on Thursday with the Stampede Bowl. Toronto going to Calgary. Vernon Adams, the Stampede Bowl GOAT. I'm saying it. He had 7 touchdowns this week, 7 touchdowns. And last year, when I was on Winnipeg, we went to Calgary and played in the first inaugural Stampede Bowl, and he gave it to us pretty good then too. So I'm just going to go ahead and say it. There's been 2 Stampede Bowls. Vernon Adams is 2-0. He's balled out in both of them. He's a Stampede Bowl GOAT, in my opinion, at this point. 2 games into that segment, that series of games that they've been doing. Looking at Toronto, that Toronto offense is still explosive. That's not the issue. We've talked at length about how elite their receiving core is and some of the weapons that they have, the way that Chad Kelly's able to push the ball down the field. But they got to establish a run game that's going to really help their offense. And they're just struggling to get stops on defense. I mean, you give up 58 points. It's going to be really, really difficult to win football games. So you're going to always be relying on shootouts, always going to be relying on Chad Kelly and those receivers' ability to get the ball down the field and make huge plays. If you can slow the game down a little bit with the run game, just like we talked about with BC last week, if BC can slow the game down with the run game, which they did this week, we'll get to that. But I think the same thing goes for Toronto. Slow the game down a little bit, start to establish a run game. And again, I've said it week after week, if you want to make a run deep into the playoffs in this league, you got to have a run game. So I think that might hurt them a little bit offensively. And the situational awareness, you look at kind of the back and forth that ensued at the end of the first half with that game. You know, Toronto going down, Calgary goes down, scores. Toronto goes down, scores with 20-some seconds left. Calgary comes out, throws the big pass to Tevin Jones. First play, corner misses the tackle. He's one-on-one, and he takes it to the house. Situational awareness there has to be heightened. You're okay tackling the receiver for a 12-yard gain out of bounds. No problem. There's 18 seconds left on the clock. But you know you're on an island there. You cannot give up that touchdown because that's ultimately what sparked Calgary to go on this massive run in the second half. That back and forth going into halftime and then allowing Calgary to then score another touchdown there. That was just such a big swing in the game. And if you want to be a championship team, which I think Toronto has the talent to do, especially offensively, just got to have better situational awareness there. So Calgary comes out on top. Vernon Adams, 7 touchdowns, still hasn't turned the ball over this season. He is playing outstanding football, and I said it last week too. If he keeps doing that, taking care of the football, along with Dedrick Mills at running back and the way that he can run the ball, it's going to be a deadly team going into the second half of the season. So Calgary gets the win in the second ever Stampede Bowl. Then we jump over to Ottawa. Sask went to Ottawa, and just an unfortunate loss for Ottawa. You know, watching the game, they had some opportunities. They were able to block a punt. They had a couple takeaways, had some balls bounce their way. And Ottawa's always kind of one of those weird places that is tough to play. We struggled there at times in Winnipeg. So you just felt like, okay, maybe they're going to pull this one out. Jake Mayer made some great throws. Hardy had some really good catches. Did he play perfect? No. No one ever plays perfect. But he made some throws in that game to keep him in the ball game and give them a chance to win. And at the end of the game, they're driving down, they're putting a drive together, and they get stuffed on 3rd and 1. So unfortunate loss for Ottawa. They're sitting at 0-4, still scratching, trying to piece together a win somehow. But let's jump back to that play that ultimately ended the game for Ottawa and gave the ball back to Sask. They never looked back. 3rd and 1. 3rd and 1. These are game-defining plays. These are game-winning and losing plays. And the narrative around the CFL at times has been, why do teams have a wedge guy? Why do teams have a guy that just specializes in the wedge? And I know we're just signaling out quarterbacks. When you think about the wedge, it's a team buy-in. There's no glory in the wedge. It's about a lineman diving headfirst into a defensive lineman and just wanting to move a guy. It's about a receiver lined up on the end of the line of scrimmage and giving it to that corner or that halfback or that safety that's lined up over the top of him just for the team because they want to get a first down. There's no glory in that. But when you signal out the quarterbacks with the wedges and you say, oh, we shouldn't have wedge guys, look at Tommy Stevens. Look at what Tommy Stevens has done for this Sask offense. When Sask has the ball and it's 2nd and 2, 2nd and 1, 3rd and 1, you feel pretty damn confident that's going to be a first down. And that is such a cheat code for your team. When you get down inside the 2-yard line, on the 2-yard line and in, and you know that you can just wedge it in for a touchdown, that's a game changer for your team. You can close out ball games. And it doesn't just stop there. You do exactly what Sass did with Tommy Stevens at the end of the game that I used to do in Winnipeg is, hey, we're in a run the ball situation. That team knows we're going to run the ball. We know we're going to run the ball. Let's put our guy in. Let's put our guy in at quarterback who can run the ball. We get an extra blocker with a running back lead blocking. Now we got a hat on a hat and we can get even more yards, especially a guy with that size. So I love teams that have a wedge guy that take pride in the wedge. You look at what Winnipeg has done since 2018, and you look at what Sask is doing now, and using the wedge to their advantage as a weapon to generate explosives and stay on the field in key situations. That game, Sask going to Ottawa, is a prime example of why teams should invest time in coaching the wedge. And if you have a guy who can specialize in the wedge, go ahead and use him. So anyways, I digress, but the wedge guy can win and lose you games. Let's talk about Trevor Harris. He has just been Mr. Consistent, had a solid game as always. And the thing that I love about Trevor Harris, when I watch him play football, his processing speed is ridiculous. The way he's able to get the ball out before the receiver's even out of his break, the defense doesn't even have time to adjust because he's throwing the ball so early. And I got a good clip I'm going to telestrate and put up on social media this week to show. But the way that he processes when he drops back and gets to the top of his drop and takes his one hitch, if he's multiple hitches, he's coming down to his running back, getting the ball out of his hands. That's why it's so hard for teams to get pressure on him. Let's talk about Keyshawn Johnson for a second, too. He goes for $150 and a touchdown. I think he's one of the best wide receivers in the game. This is a guy I know personally. We played together on the Arizona Cardinals. And when I watch him play, he's just smooth. He's not a guy that's a burner. He doesn't have the sauciest routes in the world, but he just knows exactly where to be. And as a quarterback, that's the guy I love throwing to. You don't have to be a burner. You don't have to be super crazy twitchy. As long as you know where to be on time, that's all we need. And you look at a guy like Trevor Harris, his game is all timing. So you know that he loves throwing to a guy like that who can wrap the wheel on a bender and be exactly where he needs to be and hit him in stride for the touchdown. And that's exactly why I think he's a great fit in this Sask offense. And I think he just needs to get more credit around the league as being one of the best receivers. He's got strong hands, continues to show up for that offense. And you can tell he's somewhat of a safety blanket at times for Trevor Harris, where he can get him the ball and really trust where he's going to be. So I still think Sask is the team to beat in the league. I know there's some other contenders, but the way that they're well-rounded and still haven't even really got the run game going with AJ Ouellette, I think they're still the team to beat, and they look really good. And let's see if Ottawa can get a win here in the coming weeks. Jumping over to Saturday now, we had Edmonton going to BC. Touchdown Kelowna Part 2. I know I said it last week, but that atmosphere looked unbelievable. To get 20,000 fans to Kelowna, fired up the way that they are, it looked like a beautiful day. It looked like a beautiful setting, and the fans were electric. So shout out to those fans, and shout out to the CFL for investing in allowing teams to go there and do that. I know the World Cup and all that, but still, looked like a really cool environment. I hope I'm able to get out there in the coming years. BC, they finally got a takeaway on defense. They had 4 takeaways. Let's go. And they established a run game. And look what happens. Look how they can dominate a game and control a game to a certain extent when you have a run game. You get James Butler going. You get a couple takeaways. Sankey gets the interception late as Edmonton's kind of driving down to make it a game. They finally made those plays that we have become accustomed to seeing at the end of last year. And I said it last week as well. I have all the confidence in BC getting this thing turned around. It's such a young season. They're still figuring out. Now they still have to continue to get better on defense and special teams, but they took a step in the right direction. James Butler had 135 yards, 2 touchdowns. Awesome to get him going. And I like their backup, Xander Horvath. Nothing flashy about him. I'll tell you what, he looks absolutely yoked. I love seeing a guy go in there for the wedge, embracing that role. Being able to catch the ball out of the backfield and just kind of playing his role. I see him on special teams as well. So I kind of like that guy if he gets an opportunity this year to step up. But he's a Boilermaker, Purdue, gritty, hard hat, lunch pail type of guy coming from Purdue. Not a flashy school. So I'm excited to see him get more opportunities as the season goes on. BC was able to slow down Justin Rankin on the ground for the first time. I think he only had 19 yards rushing. Now, he still had 100 yards coming out of the backfield receiving the ball. Some of those were in end-of-game type of situations, but at the end of the day, being able to slow him down on first down running the football makes Edmonton's offense more one-dimensional, and Cody Fajardo still played a great game numbers-wise. He threw for 395, 3 touchdowns. He did have the 3 interceptions, which is uncharacteristic out of him, but when you're able to limit that run game on first down, you're able to make an offense a lot more one-dimensional, especially when you got an MOP candidate like Rankin. BC needed this game to get back on track. Going 0-3, you're playing a team that's 3-0 at the top of the West. You go to 0-4, they go to 4-0. That's a tall mountain to climb. There's a lot of ground to cover there. So to be able to get to 1-3 and stay on pace with Winnipeg, who's 2-2, Calgary, who's 2-2 in that West, you don't want to fall back too many games early. Then you're just you want to be able to control your destiny to a certain extent. And I think by winning this football game, they're still very much playoff contenders in a crowded West division. And we wrapped up the weekend Sunday night, Winnipeg going to Hamilton. I was very excited to see this game because this was a huge game for Winnipeg. Again, you talk about how crowded this West Division is and the way that Hamilton handled Winnipeg earlier in the year at Winnipeg. I was very excited to see how this game went, and it was honestly just the most classic Winnipeg win of all time. Comes down to defense. Winnipeg gets a pick in the second half, comes down to special teams. They had a couple good returns, and Brady running the football. Like that's the recipe that Winnipeg has won games with, going back to Andrew Harris in 2018 and 19. They've been winning games that way for a really long time, and it was great for Winnipeg to see them get back to that blueprint of what we've come to know as the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, being able to go into Hamilton and get it done in a tough environment like that. It's horrible to see Bo go down. It looked like a serious injury. I don't want to speculate. I'm never that guy. Praying for him, thinking about him, because I know what goes into this game as a quarterback, and especially as a dad as well. Takes a toll not just on you, but on your whole family. So prayers are going out to Bo. I hope he's going to be okay, and I hope this isn't the last time we got to see him step on the field, because coming into this game, in the last 2 games, he had 8 touchdowns and 8 incompletions. 8 touchdowns and 8 incompletions. So, Bo, prayers go out to you, buddy. I'm sure you won't see this, but if you do, thinking about you, man. And I hope, again, we have not seen you. I hope we get to see you strap on the uniform another time, man. So we got to see Trey Ford and Dolgala go in for Hamilton. And kind of interesting what they did with them is kind of rotating them in as the game progressed. They throw Dolgala in on that 2nd and long, cold off the bench, and hits Dietrich Nichols in the face with the ball, throws an errant pass. I think both those guys are good quarterbacks that could start in this league, but it's very difficult when you have a guy go down like that, and then it's like, okay, we're going to play both you guys. We're just going to throw you in and out. Let a guy get in a rhythm. Just make your decision and let a guy get in a rhythm. And I get it. Trey Ford has a very specific skill set that you want to play to, and maybe the game plan didn't have some of those calls in there for him. But next week, if you're Hamilton, just give the reins to one of those guys and make sure the game plan's planned around him. If it's me, go with Trey Ford. He's won a lot of games in this league. I know Dolgala started a lot of games too, but Trey Ford's very dynamic. He can add a different element to this offense, and the way the teams have to play the box against him, I think it's going to allow you more one-on-one opportunities to what we've said is one of the best receiving corps in the league with Kenny Lawler, Myron Mitchell, Wheatfall, all these guys that are great players. Again, big win for Winnipeg in a crowded West, and Hamilton's whole outlook on the season just changed. Again, we talked about it at the very beginning. The idea of having depth at quarterback is extremely important in this league, and Hamilton needs that now. So I'm excited to see how those guys step up, and they're still going to be a tough team to beat, no doubt. They're a well-rounded football team. Let's get into the Cianin Award. I think you guys probably already know where this is going. This guy had 7 touchdowns this week, 0 interceptions. He has yet to throw an interception all season, not one. And he was getting it done in the pocket, standing tall in the pocket, delivering the football on time. When it was time to avoid the rush, he kept his eyes downfield and was able to push the ball downfield, take checkdowns when they're there. He's shoveling left-handed touchdowns. Balls are bouncing off defenders' fingertips right into his receiver's hands. That's how you know it's just your day. And when the time presented itself in man coverage with nobody accounting for the quarterback, what does he do? Takes off for a 20-yard rushing touchdown. He did absolutely everything. He was dialed in, seeing the field, the best that we've seen from potentially anybody this entire season. Vernon Adams, keep it up, man. You are seeing the field tremendously. No interceptions this year. Keep playing clean football. Keep leading that football team. I love watching you ball, buddy. You were seeing it this week. All right, let's jump into next week. Got some big matchups. We got Ottawa going to Edmonton. Ottawa still looking for their first win. Edmonton looking to bounce back. Again, they got to get Rankin going on the ground early on first down to have that balance with their team that makes them so dangerous. They want us to be able to stay atop the West, and they're going to be able to do that if they get a win. This is a game that great teams win. If you're Ottawa and you're going back home, you're Edmonton and you're going back home against Ottawa, you got to find a way to get this game won and show that okay, that beginning of the season wasn't just a fluke. We're not going to fall to 3-2. We're going to move to 4-1. We're going to go beat Ottawa, a team that's going to pull out all the stops to get a win. Every trick play in the book, everything they can do to get a win. They are hungry. They need this win, right? So if you're Edmonton and you want to prove that you're legit in the West and you can really be a contender to win the West, you got to go win that game because Ottawa feels close. Like they were close to getting it done last week against Sask. They're headed on the right direction. Edmonton, if you want to be legit in the West, you got to go get it done this week. Toronto goes to Winnipeg on Friday. I got to assume Zach's going to be back. He looked okay at the end. Prayers go out to him. I love Zach. Everyone knows our relationship, so checked in with him. Hopefully he's going to be okay. Winnipeg's got to find a way to slow down Toronto on offense. Obviously things were different at the end of the Hamilton game in the second half with Bo going down, but Toronto's offense looks amongst the most explosive in the league with that receiving core, and they've had a tough time stopping some of these explosive passing offenses in the last few weeks. So they got to find a way to slow them down. And it could be a shootout, though, because Toronto, to be honest with you, hasn't really stopped anybody this year either. If they had a pretty good defense, we'd probably be talking about them being one of the best teams in the league. But we may see a big shootout. We may see a big back-and-forth game. As long as Zach's back, it's going to be interesting to see. But shout out to Taylor Elgzerma as well for Winnipeg going in this week, managing that football game, no turnovers, being able to grind out a win. There's a lot to be said about a backup quarterback doing that. So it was good to see him get out on the field. Hopefully Zach can get back out there soon, and I'm excited to see that game, Toronto going to Winnipeg. We got Calgary going to Montreal on Saturday. I'm really interested in this game. I think it's going to be a great game. I think Calgary always plays Montreal somewhat tough. They've got a great D-line. They've got a really strong defense. And again, with the way Vernon Adams has been taking care of the football, with that recipe, great D-line that can get pressure with 4, good in the back, and they got a couple of the best DBs in the league, and their running game and a quarterback that takes care of the ball. To me, that sounds like a championship level formula right there. So I'm excited to see how they go going into Montreal. It's a tough place to play. It's going to be loud, but if VA can take care of the ball, that gives Calgary a chance. Montreal's coming off a bye. They're going to be well rested, but I think we could see two of the best teams, two of the hottest teams in the league, if you will, going toe-to-toe on Saturday night. And then we finish off the week, Hamilton going to Sask. Assuming Bo's out, it's going to be interesting to see how they adjust. Again, do you roll with Trey Ford? I think you do. You put in some of those quarterback run plays that we've come to see from him, move the pocket, bootlegs, things like that are going to play to his strengths. And he can still push the ball down the field. He had that pass to Kenny Lawler this week that was a touchdown, got overturned, but he can still push the ball down the field. So play into his strengths, but have some down the field shots as well. When Sask ultimately wants to come up in the box, stop the quarterback run, play some man, you've got shots downfield. Sask, looking to me, they're still the team to beat in the league. You go beat Hamilton at home, you move to 4-1. I think you're still the team to beat going into your bye week. So can't wait to see how Sask matches up with Hamilton and what Hamilton does, assuming Bo's going to be out next week. After this week, guys, after next week, we're going to be a third of the way through the season. I can't believe how fast this is going. I can't believe how fun this content journey has been with all of you guys. I can't thank you enough for your support. But after this week, a third of the way through the season, there's a lot of meat left on this bone. We got a lot more to work through. There's going to be anything can happen. Guys can get injured. Teams can get hot. Anything can happen. We're only a third of the way through this thing. This is the most exciting football league in the world. I'm excited to watch what happens. And as always, guys, that's how I see it like Strev.